to be spring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so what's snow?
Yeah, it's wait, I thought it was just like the day.
No.
Okay.
It's actually like there was an equinox at 6.
Focusing on math. Today, again, this is review about factoring trinomials. And I suppose, let's start like we did the last time. Factoring trinomials is like starting at the end and figuring out what the beginning's supposed to be. For example, if you have these two binomials times themselves. Let's go minus. X plus 2 times x minus 3. If you remember, we did the old, what we call FOIL. This actually writes it down. Where you multiply the first two terms to get your x squared. Okay, the outside terms multiply to give you a negative 3x. Inside terms give you a positive 2x. When you put those two together, you get a minus 1x, and then you have your last term, which comes from the two end products there. Okay, this was multiplying of two binomials to get a trinomial. Today we are starting with the trinomial and trying to figure out what two binomials gave us that. Review, that's like a little light should come on in your head and say, yeah, you know, you told us that before. So let's take a look at what we need to understand here to be able to do this. Let's just say I start with x squared minus 7x minus 8. X squared minus 7x minus 8. Here is your basic thought process with this. Okay, the first thing is write down your two little brackets, your two little parentheses for the binomial. This one's going to be relatively easy, hopefully, because they get complicated when there's a number in front of the x squared. This doesn't have that, so you can automatically put your two x's down, because that's the only way to get x squared. Okay. Now the next thing you look at is all the possible combinations that will give you negative 8. Okay, in which we could have a negative 8 times a positive 1. I could have a positive 8 and a negative 1. I could have a positive 2 times a negative 4 and a negative 2 times a positive 4. I believe those are the only combinations when multiplied together that will give you a negative 8. But you have to pick the one that when added together gives you a negative 7, because that's what we did here. To get that middle term, it's what you get when you add together the outside and the inside terms. So if you look at what happens when you add these together, this gives you a negative 7. This is a positive 7. This is a negative 2, and this is a positive 2. So since negative 7x is my middle term, these are my 2, and it doesn't matter which one you put in which parenthesis. Those are your two other numbers that go with your binomial. If you multiply x minus 8 times x plus 1, you will get this binomial there. Remember that? This could be an oo or an ah moment. As you do more of these, you will recognize certain things. Let's try this one. X squared plus 3x. X squared plus 3x minus 10. And one of the things that you recognize is there's only one, the only way to get a negative last number is for one to be negative and one to be positive. There's no other way to do that. There's no way to get a negative is to multiply a negative times a positive. So you know when you do it that one has to be negative, one has to be positive. If this was positive and this was negative, the only way for that to happen is for both of these to be negative. Because a negative times a negative gives you a positive. A negative plus a negative gives you another negative. Oh. We have to listen to this all the time.
This is going to be on the
I think we feel we have to go to English.
Okay, and then again, hopefully you get to a point where you can just look at the factors of 10 in your head and kind of think which one of those when you add together will give you a 3. What has a difference of 3? But until that point, you know, negative 10 plus 1, positive 10 minus 1, negative 2 times a positive 5, and a positive 2 times a negative 5. Only one of those combinations is going to give me a positive 3 when I add them together. So this is negative 9, that's positive 9, that's positive 3, this is negative 3. So you have to go with that combination. The 2 is the negative 1, and the 5 is the positive 1. Okay. Does it get easier after we do it twice? Now how about this one? This could throw you for a little bit of a loop. X squared plus 5xy I think they're doing that intentionally to the negative. Plus 6y
I
squared.
know. That's in 8th grade.
Because she doesn't like it.
She said that numerous times.
Those things don't help me. Singing them doesn't help.
What really does help you though, Mary?
No, but like in the sentence and
Incessant homework, would that help you?
No, but I get the homework, but she like. Or like
Whatever
singing
you
about.
say is,
She yells
whatever you
at
say is
her.
being recorded here for all to hear. Just so you know. I don't want you to say.
I just don't like it.
Okay, let's take a look at this one here. Now, people a lot of times look at this and go, oh boy, that is it. But again, the only way to get a y squared is for both of these to have a y in them. And the only way to get an x squared is for both of those to have an x in them. It's exactly the same thing. And you'll get an xy middle term because that's what happens when you multiply that. So if there's a something squared out here, that means it has to go with the last term there. Okay, now, again, thinking about this, the only way to get a positive last term and a positive middle term is for them both to be positive. You don't have any other choices. Because if one of them were negative, this would have to be negative. And if they were both negative, this one would have to be negative as well. So that's the only combination you get there. And now it's going to be pretty simple because you know both of these have to be positive. So your only choices are really positive 6, positive 1, positive 3, positive 2. Because we can't use the negatives because they won't work. Which one, when added together, gives you a 5? That would be this one. So 1 is 3, 1 is 2. And it doesn't matter which you pick to be which. 0 there. Alright, now what happens when this happens? What if you have a negative 21 minus 4x plus x squared? It is in reverse order. Please, 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 you can move around. There's no equal sign on any of this stuff, so you can change terms or whatever way. If you see something like this, you need to arrange it in descending order. I could spell descending. How do you spell descending? Alright? There, no.
No,
There's no S, there's no
there's
C.
no S, there is a C.
Okay, it
No.
doesn't matter. No?
No, there's an S.
There's an S, it's T.
Otherwise it'd be sick.
I don't think it's D-E-S.
I think it is.
I think you got this
That
right.
doesn't work, right?
C.
Descend
That's not.
or
D-S-C.
D-E-S-C.
Yeah, that's right.
We had it for spelling.
Descend. Anyways, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to put your x squared first, and it doesn't change signs again because there's no equal sign. You're not moving it from one side where you're just moving terms around. Minus 4x minus 21. So you need to put it in order from least to greatest. Your x squared first, your x in the middle. And then you know that they have to be x's. And again, there's only one way to get a negative n term and a negative middle term. No, there's 2 ways. No. Yeah. No, there's a couple ways. You can't say that. Only one way to get a negative here, a positive and a negative, because this is, so you have to think here. Negative 21, your choices are negative 3, positive 7, positive 3, negative 7, and then the 21 and the 1. But you know that's not going to work because that's going to give you a difference of 22. Which one gives you the minus 4x? That's that one there. So plus 3 minus 7. Yeah, the only way to get a plus and a minus is to find this. Is everybody relatively excited and happy about that? Let me see if I can find one. I'll have you try one. We'll see what happens here. How about this one? X squared plus 5x minus 14. X squared plus 5x minus 14. You should be done. You got it? Do it on your own, to yourself. To thine own self be true, Mercutio.
Which was does that say?
Only I know.
Practice.
Right, stop.
Going to Pilates.
I am. Trying to work off all that weight from when I was younger.
My dad
You
made
were
us do
fat.
things.
What did we come up with, Gwen Cousineau?
X plus 7 and x minus 2.
Correct. Multiply together, -14, add together, +5. Your assignment.
Pilates.